Let me throw an example at you that I wrote about several years ago. If you're going to buy printing from somebody, a brochure, a catalog, whatever, there's two kinds of salespeople: a salesperson or a person who used to work in the plant but is now a salesperson.
Right.
Who would you rather buy from?
Oh, the latter.
Of course.
Because
I would always rather buy from the guy that worked in the shop, got his hands dirty, got ink on his sneakers, went home and tracked it all over his car one day, and learned how to adjust the color on the press so that it was perfect, or would tell me when I'm buying, no, this is not what you need. This is what we're going to put on the press.
Right.
That's my guy.
Right.
Not it's going to cost me $38 a thousand.
This is the Sales Bible Podcast, episode 240, Napoleon Hill's Truthful Living, an interview with the sales king, Jeffrey Gitomer.
Welcome to Sales Babble, the podcast that shares selling secrets for non-sellers. And now your host, Pat Helmers.
Hello, Sales Babblers. This is Pat Helmers, and today our guest is Napoleon Hill. Now, with that said, it's important that you know that Napoleon Hill died in 1970. Hill's the author of the book Think and Grow Rich, which, according to Wikipedia, is one of the top 10 best-selling self-help books of all time. So it begs the question, how's it you're getting Napoleon Hill on the podcast, Pat? Well, I'm doing it through the sales king, Jeffrey Gitomer, who's taken Napoleon Hill's book, Truthful Living, and he's republished it with annotations, definitions, and in editing it for the modern reader. Jeffrey's a renowned author of sales books, including the Sales Bible, and he co-hosts with Jen Gluckow the Sell or Die podcast. Today, we dig into the eternal truths of Napoleon Hill and how it applies to sales and any and all who have an entrepreneurial spirit. So, with no further ado, let's get to it. Welcome, Jeffrey. You ready to babble?
Yes, I am.
Jeff got a new book out. It's called Truthful Living, the first writings of Napoleon Hill.
I'd hold it up, but this is audio.
But I am holding it up, actually.
Aha. So am I.
So okay. So anyhow, you're a fan of this man.
I'm a fan. I'm an expert. In 1972, I got my positive attitude by reading Think and Grow Rich about 10 times. I had a group of sales guys that I was training with, and we did a book report on one chapter each morning. And there's only 15 chapters in the book, and we met for about a year.
Yeah.
So it was every day, it was Napoleon Hill Day. And we dissected the book front and back. And after about the third reading, I'd say, I knew that my attitude would be positive and permanent. So I'm good to go.
I read this book many, many years ago. Really loved it. Interesting thing about the book, this actually came out 1919, almost 100 years ago.
Right. The original writings were created in 1917, so they're officially 100 years old. And they came out 20 years before Think and Grow Rich. And these are his original philosophies, thoughts, musings on personal development, positive attitude, and wealth. This is how Napoleon Hill put it all down. And he did this after his class on selling. He had an advertising school teaching people how to sell advertising. And at the end of each class, he typed out an after the lesson visit with Mr. Hill. And those papers, of which there's about 300 or so sheets, became the Truthful Living book. I edited out all of the sales part and left in all the personal development part. And it's an incredible book. And I have to say, I'm absolutely blown away by what happened. The book has been accepted internationally now, and it launches October the 30th. Obviously, you can go get an advanced copy on Amazon. But you can also get the first chapter for free if you go to hillsfirstwritings.com.
I'll make sure and put that link in the show notes. I've really enjoyed reading this, because if you look at in the book, you've got like 23 lessons.
Yep.
Like success is up to you. Finish what you start. How to
Exactly.
think. Imagine. This stuff is like really, really, really rich.
It's very rich. And let me, just for your listeners, towards the end of the book, everything in the book is absolutely germane to what's happening today. Written 100 years ago, viable today. And at the beginning of each chapter, if you notice, I wrote how to do it and how not to do it. So this is the challenge. The book was written 100 years ago and still contains applicable information in today's world more so than ever. In this book, 100 years ago, he predicted Walmart and he predicted Amazon. It's a mind blower. You'll wait till you see when you get finished the book, you'll like, oh wow, look what he just did here. And I'm going to let me just read one little excerpt, which I think will help people understand. And keep in mind, this was written in language and lexicon from 100 years ago. Success may be had by those who are willing to pay the price. And most of those who crave a $10,000 a year position, which in today's world is $250,000,
right,
especially if they are engaged in business, may realize it if they will pay the price. And the price is eternal vigilance in the development of self-confidence, enthusiasm, working with a chief aim, performing more service than you are paid for, and concentration. With these qualities well developed, you will be sure to succeed. And let's name these qualities the 5-point rule. Now, this is what's important to understand. None of these pieces individually are new, but the power comes when you combine them with excellence. So if you only have enthusiasm, but you don't have great service, you're going to lose. You need all 5 of these in order to be able to make it happen. And the glue is concentration. So if you go back to the chapter that's the magic key, and that's chapter 20 something. Oh, I'm sorry, chapter 18. Chapter 18, the great magic key. Right. You'll find that the great magic key is the word concentration. And what Hill says is if you apply this to all the things that you do, and you get concentration by diverting yourself from interruption or diverting yourself from diversion. And in today's world, 100 years later, think about it. In 1917, what diversions were there? There was no TV. The phone was a rarity. You couldn't fly anywhere. You had to take a train. And so what Hill is saying is 100 years later, put your cell phone away, put your notifications off, turn the television off, and you'll be able to concentrate on what is important to you, your life, and your success. You deprive yourself, self-deprivation, by focusing on what is important to you and your success and your family and your career and your wealth.
This is so timely. I just listened to a podcast last week about how your brain is being hacked by social media. You're getting these endorphin rush every time there's a little post, every time there's a little ding, and brains are being wired to be making decisions that aren't even to know their own best. This is so timely.
Yeah. And, for $20, you put yourself on the path to understanding who you are and where you need to grow, not where you need to go, where you need to grow in order to be able to get to that next level. This book is absolutely phenomenal. I've been working on it for almost 3 years to be able to make it happen. The one thing that I didn't do is change any of Napoleon Hill's words. I annotated the book. You have an introduction for each chapter and what it's going to be about, how to put this into your life at the end of each chapter, and any place that I felt needed clarification, I annotated it with different type size and different boldness. So you could see it's clearly it's my words rather than Hill's words.
Yeah, folks, kind of describe. I have the book in my hand. This actually looks like other books that you've done in the past. We didn't talk about that. I got one of your little blue Bibles like years ago. I got it up there, and it's kind of in that same thing. It's very clear where you step out and say you're kind of the instructor at the course, and you say, this is what he meant, or this is how it applies to today. Love it, love it, love it, love it.
And I think that the reader will gain insight. Everyone whom I've sent the copy to has read the heck out of it, emailed me back a thank you note of some kind or another, and told me that they're buying it for everybody when it comes out. Now, that's pretty rare because most of the time when you send somebody a book, they don't even read it for a while. This one they read right away. They dug into it literally that night that they got the book. There were 1,000. You have a copy in front of you?
It's in my hands.
Now, notice in the front of the book, it's also autographed by me.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I saw that
No
right
problem.
off the bat.
But here, well, when I'm dead, you can go on eBay.
Yeah.
But I think that the importance of it is I wanted to personalize this book to each person that got it. So the PR firm and Amazon, who's publishing the book, who, by the way, Amazon is the publisher of the future, I decided that I was going to do something that no other author had ever done before, and that is sign all of the advanced reader copies. So I signed 1,000 of these books. That's all there are, 1,000. And they'll be sent out. And, you know, when the book becomes more immortal, these copies will be very, very, in my opinion, valuable and vintage.
There's a story in here I loved. Can I read one?
Sure.
It's really short. So a young bank clerk was discharged on account of his habit of drawing pictures and sketching mechanical parts of automobiles during the business hours. The loss of his job was quite a shock to him, for he supported his mother and his 2 sisters from his small earnings. The loss of his bank job was the greatest blessing that ever came to him. 6 months later, he invented an automobile part which made him a fortune. He's now president of one of the largest automobile accessory companies in America, and his clerks are all supplied with desk pads and pencils with instructions to do all the automobiles drawing they wish and to submit to him any new ideas for improvements. Doesn't this sound like what the offices of today, the people are trying to do in WeWorks and all of that?
Well, listen, Albert Einstein got thrown out of school because he was daydreaming. I think you have to look at it in the context of what it is and what it's doing. Many of the greatest people couldn't tolerate the norm. They dropped out or they became rebels or whatever the circumstance was until they were able to harness their power, until they were able to concentrate on the one thing that they wanted to do. And whether it's to put a dent in the world, which I think Jobs did a pretty decent job of.
Yep.
Or to start the Pop Warner Football League, which was started by Pop Warner.
Right.
And a bunch of people, this is a pretty interesting story. They invited 7 amazing college coaches in the 30s to come down and audition for a kids' football league. Only one coach showed up, Glenn Warner. And there began Pop Warner football. 400,000 kids a year go through Pop Warner and have for decades. How's that for legacy?
Yeah. Yeah.
The other 6 guys became waiters at Shoney's, I think. I'm not sure what their legacy was. But listen, Pop Warner had national championships. He had Coach Jim Thorpe. I mean, this is a guy who's inventive and creative at the top of his game. He didn't have to go to the meeting, but he decided that it would be kind of cool to help kids get better.
I think the issue so many people have is they're so plugged into their lives. They have all these responsibilities, but they want more. And they just struggle with trying to like carve out time to create that. Well, we talk about entrepreneurs need to be risk takers, but at the same time, it's in the context of real life with friends and family and all that.
And people that tell you that you can't or you shouldn't.
What would Hill be telling us?
Hill would be saying, do whatever you want to do as long as you're willing to dedicate yourself to doing it. As long as your desire is strong enough, as long as your self-belief is solid, and as long as you recognize the responsibilities of it. Just look at the first chapter. Success is up to you. So you can't be, well, what do you think? Well, what do you think? Well, don't be asking people what they think. One of the brilliances of Apple was they never held a marketing meeting to see if anybody liked the product or not. ever. They never did 1 ounce of marketing research. They just created products and people bought them.
The struggle I have with that is working with inventors and technologists is a lot of them invent an idea. They think they have an idea, an itch they want to scratch, they build it, and then they're surprised that other people don't see the value. They've never really talked to a user. They don't really know if there's even a market for that. And that's the problem.
Listen, there's going to be successes and failures in every single field, no matter who it is. But someone on accident will invent a television. And that's the person that you need to hang your hat with, because that's the person that's going to go to the moon. And you have to look at things, make a value judgment, and decide where you're going to invest your time and what you're going to do with it. And people will always call you crazy. I love when people call me crazy, because it means I'm on the right path. And I think that I can separate myself from many of them with 2 words.
And those are?
Car payment. I don't have one. And I think that you have to look at it from the perspective of who are you listening to and why are they telling you what they're telling you?
There's this notion of the entrepreneur mobile.
Yeah, that's a cool mobile. You get in it and it owes you nothing and you owe it nothing, and you just do the best you can to navigate it.
And you take that extra money that you had and you make that dream come true.
Exactly. And you're willing to work your rear end off to be able to make it happen. If you don't have the desire, if you're not willing to put forth the effort, if you don't have the work ethic that it takes to get you to the next level, then go take a job someplace. Just don't take it at Sears or Kmart. Not a good employer at the moment.
I think only like 2-3%. I don't know what the study is. 2-3% of the people are really all that entrepreneurial in all of society.
Yeah. What? By the way, just to digress for just a second, is there a specific Chicago reaction to the fact that Sears just went under?
It seems inevitable.
Yeah, but it's Chicago based, isn't it? Didn't Sears?
Yes, but there are no Sears. They're all the stores are closed. The one here I have in town here closed a year ago.
Wow.
So it's kind of like you don't even notice that it's there. It's like the same thing when Montgomery Ward's closed.
Yeah, or Spiegel. Chicago 60609.
Yeah. Sears has had a slow, Sears had its day.
But they didn't keep up.
I think people miss Fields, Marshall Fields, when Macy's bought them out. And the thing about Fields was Fields was quite the entrepreneur in having women have an entire experience in the store.
In his day. And you have to look at it from that context. How well did they keep up? And the answer is not. They didn't look to see what was happening around them. They thought that if they just improved a little bit every year, that everything would be fine.
Yes.
In the meantime, somebody was out there cleaning clocks.
Yes.
And I think that you have to look at it from the perspective of, okay, why did Sears and Kmart go out? And the answer is Amazon came in and Sears and Kmart weren't paying attention. They literally thought if they just got a little bit better, or Amazon has a website, we better build a website too. No, dude, you should have partnered with them. You should have been sucked in by them. You should have done something to be able to save your brick and mortar stores that were so archaic you couldn't find a human. The blue light special meant nothing. Nothing. Once Amazon came into play.
See, this is the trouble these big companies get into. And I used to work for a Fortune 500 company who exactly had this problem, and their shares went from $82 to $2 back. And the thing is, it's just really, really hard for these huge boats of companies to shift their rudder. Now, the companies I think who are sharp out there are the ones who are clever in how they acquire, and they acquire these smaller companies who have
or they get acquired. Or they get acquired.
Or that too. But the deal is when you've got the money, that's when you should be buying, before you've gone too far. Right?
But look at it from this perspective. Any big company can shift in a heartbeat if their CEO has the intestinal fortitude to make it happen. And the CEO is literally on the rudder every day. Whether it's the CEO of Amazon. I mean, look what that guy's done.
Oh,
The CEO of Apple, look what that guy's done.
Amazing stuff. Just absolutely amazing.
And so, but it can also go the other way. Look at the CEO of Wells Fargo. That guy was a creep. That guy allowed millions of accounts to be opened up fraudulently and knew about it. And just tried to sweep it under the carpet and no one would find out and everything would be fine.
Well, Google look at Google. They just closed their Google Circles things, their Google Plus.
Yeah. Well, I mean, finally, come on. It was a dinosaur a long time ago.
What would Hill be saying about these big companies?
I think Hill and that's a brilliant question, by the way. Hill would be saying that they weren't focused enough, that they tried to be too diverse to too many people and not focus on their core business. They expanded too quickly, too soon, and as a result, so everyone was trying to compete against somebody else. Google Plus came out to compete against Facebook. Why? They were already Google. Bing helps you decide. Bing helps you decide. I decided to use Google.
That's a great quote.
Think about it. Google is the search engine, correct? What happened to the Yellow Pages?
Yeah, that all got subsumed.
Well, what they did is they were greedy, and they decided they were going to milk the cash cow of the Yellow Pages until there was no more Yellow Pages. And as a result, I think 28 people go to yp.com every year, and that's about it. Ever go to yp.com?
I don't.
I don't understand. Why don't you? The Yellow Pages thinks you do. They're still trying to charge money for it. But they're over because they waited too long. They're totally over because they waited too long.
Maybe if you could tell our listeners, what's the one big thing, before we wrap up here, what's the one big thing that they need to know about Napoleon Hill that distinguishes him from all the other authors out there who've been writing business books for, time immemorial?
He will encourage you to succeed at the same time he is giving you the ideas to succeed with. And I think that the combination of positive attitude and personal development and struggle for wealth are rare in today's anything. I don't want to challenge myself. I don't want to find the pain. I don't want to be strategic. I don't want to ask a bunch of questions. I want to know how I can, in the best way possible, build relationships with somebody, work my rear end off to be able to make it happen, and focus on me first so that I can be the best I can be for other people second. And if you look at chapter 1, success is up to you, and chapter 2, finish what you start, that's going to give you some insight as to what's in the rest of the book.
Where can people find this?
They can go to Amazon.com. They can go to Barnes & Noble. Well, I don't know if Barnes & Noble is going to sell it because I think they compete against it. I'm not really sure. But you can go to any. You can get the book right now. If you can pre-order it because it comes out October 30th. You can get the book right now by going to Amazon.com. And when you get into the little search thing, just type Truthful Living in there and boom, click it. And you can get it in hardbound, which is a beautifully done book. You can get it in Kindle, and you'll get the same interior design. Or you can get it on Audible or on Brilliance. I recorded the entire book.
Did you?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
And let me tell you something. It's written in lexicon from 1917. It's different lexicon. So it took me, I don't know how many hours, 15, maybe 20 hours to record something that normally would have taken me 4 or 5. Because I kept misreading it and going back, misreading it and going back. And I had everything going for me. I enlarged the type. I did everything I possibly could. And I still screwed it up a bunch of times.
Yeah, they wrote in longer sentences back then.
Yeah, and used less commas. Like, dude, commas are free. Use another one.
You said there was a first chapter that they could get.
Yeah, they can go to hillsfirstwritings.com and they can get themselves the chapter 1, Success is Up to You. And it will give you a little bit of insight as to what the book is about and how I annotate it. I didn't change any of Hill's words. I just added my own. And I did them in a way where they're very distinctly different. You don't mess with the master. You know what I mean?
No.
I had no right to do that. So I mean, that was part of my privilege for doing the book. I wasn't about to go he or she when Hill wrote about, there was no, women weren't working in 1917. Get over it.
Well, if I remember right, there's an institute out there, and you actually got their blessing to create this book, right?
Yes. Yeah, the Napoleon Hill Foundation literally asked me if I wanted to edit it and annotate it, and I humbly said yes.
People want to find you. Where would they go? Some of you all may not know. Jeffrey
I'm so
Gitomer.
easy to find. It's not just, go to Gitomer.com, Gitomer.com, or the Gitomer Learning Academy.com.
And you've got a podcast too, right?
Oh, yeah. Sell or Die is 5 days a week now.
I know. I listened to it.
Cool.
It's hilarious.
It's what? It's funny as hell.
It is really good stuff.
We have a real good time. We have a great team. We have at least 2 producers on every episode. It's all done digitally, and most of the time it's videoed. So, like, my part is being videoed right now, and we use them for lessons. We use them for all kinds of things, or we cut a clip out of it to make it more, a little bit more relevant, or tease the podcast. So we'll be teasing your podcast significantly over the course of the next couple of weeks, and depending on when it goes live, we'll promote the hell out of it.
Well, we could probably do this around the launch of the book. Let's see.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah, I'll do that. So when you're listening to this, folks, it's probably around that week sometime. I'm not certain when that is. Oh, like the 30th of October.
Yeah.
Is a possibility.
And so may I personally say to all of you listeners out there, Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah.
Happy Halloween. Jeffrey, Thank you for visiting us here in Sales Babble. I really appreciate it.
I think the name of your podcast is phenomenal. And I don't know where the hell it came from, but let me tell you, it came from the right place.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
It's a doggone pleasure. I certainly wish you all the sales and sports success on the planet. I happen to be a Cubbies fan, and the Charlotte Knights minor league team is a White Sox team. So every once in a while, Jim Thome shows up.
You go to those? Those are fun. I love going to those minor league
games. I go to all of
them. Those are always. Yeah.
Well, I confession, I train the sales team for the Charlotte Knights.
Really?
Yep, and they were the number 1 minor league team this year. Of 230 minor league teams, they were number 1 in money and in attendance.
Excellent.
And it was not an accident. Well, maybe it was, but I accidentally showed up over there and helped them.
Now, it's interesting. Now, you didn't talk about how the team did itself, but how the marketing.
Well, the minor league, they did okay. They were in the middle of the pack. They sent a bunch of players up.
Yeah, their record's kind of meaningless because the players are it's musical chairs.
Right, but they're fun games to go to.
Oh yeah, I love doing that. Oh yeah.
You concentrate on who you're with. You take your kid, or you take a business associate, or you take your spouse, and they're fun social times.
They got
I made some great connections there.
The T-shirt cannon
I'm very grateful.
is everything.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm aware of my surroundings, and I try to make other people aware of the fact that I'm there in the nicest way possible.
I love it. Well, thanks again for stopping by here to Sales Babble. This has been a ton of fun. You've been great.
Great interview, and you're more than welcome to come on to Sell or Die. You might pick up a few new listeners. We'd be happy to have you.
I would be honored.
Cool.
Honored.
I'll tell you what. When the Bulls win their first game, you can be a guest.
Oh.
Preseason doesn't count.
Preseason shouldn't count. No.
All right. You take
All
care of
right,
yourself.
sir.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys.
Thank you for this opportunity.
All right. Take care.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. To repeat what Napoleon Hill is telling us after all these years, and by the way, still relevant, is that success is up to you and that you should finish what you start. And to quote Jeffrey, what Hill has done is encouraging us to succeed as well as giving us ideas on how to succeed. Not just strategies, but tactics too. To buy the book and to connect with Jeffrey, you can find links in the show notes at www.salesbabble.com/240. And to be clear, as of today, as of the publishing of this podcast, the Chicago Bills are 2-6, so I want to put it on record that they are not winless. With that said, I'm not too bullish about the Bulls this year. Got a question? Got a comment? Don't hesitate to reach out and connect on the homepage at www.salesbabble.com. And if you just click on the Babble Me button, you can ask me a question, and I will get right back to you. While you're there on the homepage, look for the Selling Secrets for Non-Sellers. You can download it, read it, digest it, and implement it to start selling with confidence today. That's all I got, folks. Until next week, take care and have a highly successful and profitable selling day.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Babble podcast. Find us at www.salesbabble.com.